For this extra credit, we're going to use the format function. So there's an option for use debug value to accept a second argument of the format function. So let's go ahead and do that, even though it's actually not totally necessary. We'll talk about that here in a bit. So I'm going to cut this and I'm going to make a format debug value function that's going to take an object with the query and the state, and it's going to return that formatted version of the label that I want. And then I'm going to pass the query and the state here, and then my format debug value. Now, the reason that this exists is because let's just assume for a moment that calculating this debug value was computationally expensive for one reason or another. So we don't want to actually call that function and execute that computation if our users don't need that. The only users who need this label are those developer users who are using this in their development workflow. The end users will never have the DevTools open. They'll never see this debug value. So making this computation for that debug value is kind of a waste of their resources. So if you ever have a computationally expensive value to use with your use debug value, then you pass all of the things that you need for calculating that value as the first argument, and then the second argument is a function that will accept those values and return the debug value you want assigned. In our case, we're actually hurting performance even more because it costs more to create this object and pass this function and then call that function and then create this string than it would be to just create the string on every render. But in either case, it's actually super duper fast, so it doesn't make much of a difference. The only time you'd ever actually use this is if calculating that debug value is somehow expensive and you want to optimize that away.